Before starting, the only thing which was crossing my mind during your speech is that's pretty unfair to speak after you. Because if you have a pre-prepared speech, the only thing which was crossing my mind to throw it and to speak freely, but I will do a kind of combination. Thank God in your 3 minutes which you devoted before to us through St. Nicholas, nobody was turning to me, seeing me as a solution for his problem. But anyway, that's not maybe so bad. So ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to talk to you about the imperative to move towards the green economy. When you hear the word imperative, you might more think of constraints, boundaries, shocks, not the kind of positive vision for the future one wishes to paint when it's your 60th birthday. But I want to try to focus really today on the benefits that an inclusive green economy can bring for Europe and also for its people. We need, I think, to take this positive and proactive attitude to the challenges we face, and I know that businesses like yours are willing and able to do that if the conditions which we will be setting as politicians will be right. One of the key ambitions of my mandate as Environment Commissioner is to put Europe on track to deliver the vision set out in our resource efficiency roadmap, which was mentioned already and which was adopted, as you know, a bit more than a year ago. What I would like today is simply to invite you to be part of this vision and to be part of this transition, which is, as I will try to tell you at the end, inevitable. A green economy, it's in essence a resource-efficient economy. Green growth through resource efficiency responds to the challenges of resource scarcity and also environmental degradation. It provides a more than necessary long-term perspective on which companies can rely to invest in their future competitiveness, while at the same time trying to provide also clear potential for short-term growth and jobs. Today in Europe, it's, to be honest, difficult not to talk about growth and jobs. But when we talk about growth and jobs, we should absolutely not focus only on the quantity, but also on the quality of that growth and the quality of the jobs which we are delivering. The combination of increasing global demands and pressures on resources, Europe's import dependency for many resources, and also the increasing relative costs of resources such as materials and energy in companies' cost structures mean that for Europe, resource efficiency, it's central question not only of environmental preservation, but also of your competitiveness. In the past 5 years, 75% of European businesses have experienced an increase in material costs. 87% of companies said they expected the costs of their material inputs to increase in the medium term. Using resources more efficiently can definitely help reduce cost and adjust to rising and less predictable commodity prices and the fierce competition for access to them. A recent UK study identified £23 billion per year potential savings for British companies through efficiency measures without any or little investment. So in essence, when we talk about resource efficiency, my point would be producing the same products by using less water, less energy, less raw materials, producing the same products which can be reusable and recyclable makes full economic sense. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, in its conclusions on economic governance, the Spring European Council asked for a rapid implementation of the European Union resource efficiency and low carbon roadmaps. This is a clear affirmation of a highest political level to the EU-wide commitment to pursue green growth and the importance of the resource efficiency agenda for a sustainable exit from the crisis. We have created a momentum, but the true question is, of course, delivery of our policies. To guide and accompany our efforts, we have set up the European Resource Efficiency Platform, which includes business representatives who provide valuable input alongside ministers, international organizations, researchers, social partners, and NGOs. I'm happy and privileged to have also your colleague Paul Polman with us. The platform focuses on the promotion of a circular economy, the setting of conducive framework conditions for investments, and indicators and targets for resource efficiency. We expect specific recommendations for first priority measures in summer next year. The transition to a resource-efficient economy and society requires new levels of innovation, breaking out of locked-in systems and technologies. It will be led by forward-looking countries, companies, researchers, inventors, investors, and this is actually the strength which we have in Europe. The private sector can and should be in the driver's seat, but it needs the right framework conditions as well as functioning markets. So good regulation, its effective implementation are there to provide a level playing field in the right incentives and the right rewards. We will only get it right by working truly in partnerships and by dealing with present and future problems from both, from environmental and also from the business perspective. I'm convinced that your sector has all it's needed to contribute. I hope I can count on your support for actions at all levels to facilitate and speed up also the transition. Many times actually I'm hearing an argument that environment is a brake for the business development. Frankly, I think if all that energy and innovative potential of those people which are using those arguments would go rather in delivery the answers which we need, we will be all better off. The EU has clear strengths in eco-industries, an expanding sector with a high proportion of SMEs and expanding international markets. Employment in the sector in the European Union has been growing by around 3% a year in recent years. The global market for eco-industries is estimated to be at least €1 trillion, and it's expected to almost double over the next 10 years. We are doing particularly well in certain subsectors. For example, we hold a 50% share globally in recycling, 35% in energy efficiency, so we are well placed to benefit from the growth also in the global demand. And eco-industries are what is the most important, enablers for the rest of the economy to perform better in the terms of environmental preservation. For example, there is a huge potential for growth and jobs in waste and water management. The waste sector alone grew more than 20% between 2000 and 2008. Similarly, jobs in recycling grew by almost 80%. It is estimated that full implementation of EU waste legislation would increase the annual turnover of EU waste management and recycling sector by €42 billion and create over 400,000 new jobs till 2020. SMEs are also already responding to the challenge. Today, 26% of the SMEs are active in green markets. Another 8% plan to achieve that in the next few years, and this is a trend we simply need to stimulate and support. We realize that many SMEs lack of information, expertise, and resources to take this challenge on. Therefore, it is essential that we continue to include SMEs and support them, both those that wish to be active in green markets and those that would simply benefit from resource efficiency measures. Resource efficiency, it's not about producing less, but it's first and foremost about producing more with less, more added value with less stuff. We want companies to provide what consumers need, but we also want to enable and encourage them both to reduce the associated resource use and minimize environmental impacts. And let me be clear, actually we do not want to talk about deindustrialization. We want to talk what is absolutely needed about dematerialization of our production. Innovation is crucial if European companies are to maintain the competitive position they hold in the eco-industry sector. So it is access to finance and more innovative and responsive public policies. All three elements are brought together in our European Union innovation partnerships, which have recently been launched on water, on raw materials, and on agriculture. This will also bring researchers, business, policymakers together to develop policies and stimulate financing to bring solutions to the market. The transformation to a green economy asks not just business, including producers and retailers, but also consumers to accommodate and change behavior. Consumers have the right to be informed about products, and they are increasingly asking for more information. However, recent surveys show some quite worrying trends. Half of European Union citizens do not trust environmental claims. 1/3 of them encountered misleading environmental claims. Consumers need to be better informed on how they can contribute to reduce their footprint on the planet and also on the resources. The resource efficiency roadmap sets an important milestone for product policy. I'm quoting, "By 2020, citizens and public authorities have the right incentives to choose the most resource-efficient products and services through appropriate price signals and clear environmental information. Their purchasing choices will stimulate companies to innovate and to supply more resource-efficient goods and services. Minimum environmental performance standards are set to remove the least resource-efficient and most polluting products from the market. Consumer demand is high for more sustainable products and services." End of quote. But to stimulate supply and demand for more resource-efficient goods and services and encourage companies to improve their environmental performance and reduce resource use, we need to have a robust, science-based but also practical tools. We need to be able to identify the genuine green products and companies on the market. Both business and consumers are asking to take action in this domain. This is why we will soon present ideas for common methods to calculate the environmental sustainability of products and of organizations based on life cycle assessment. This will allow businesses operating across the single market to be able to cut costs across by applying a single EU method instead of multitude of national ones. If we want to be serious about developing an effective single market for green products and companies, we need to create the conditions to ensure that the genuine green performers are rewarded for their efforts and free riders and greenwashers are exposed and dissuaded. We are already going, I think, in the right direction. Today, environmental considerations have become a central part of marketing strategies for many industries and an element of consideration for investors also. Companies are more and more using life cycle assessments and a green sourcing tool, which is a way to improve their overall performance along the value chain. They are using also the approaches to identify and select the best performing suppliers, especially with reference to SMEs. Industrial sectors such as electronics, automotive, heavy manufacturing, and building and construction are already evaluating also the environmental attributes of materials as part of the selection processes. In some cases, companies are proactively seeking out materials that will contribute to the environmental performance of their products or projects through the entire life cycle. And I'm aware that your sector has put really some serious thoughts into this, and I'm aware of the progress that has been shared among your members at all levels and of all the supply chain. The result is the high number of EU eco-label licenses that detergents hold. I'm very much welcoming, of course, your efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, 2013 will be a major milestone for putting us on track in delivering on these aspirations. Early next year, we will put forward ideas on how we can move towards a single market for green products, and we hope that this, what we consider to be realistic solutions to tackling our environmental and economic problems, will resonate positively within the business community. We have just a few days ago adopted the 7th Environmental Action Programme, which is actually our strategic document for the next 8 years till 2020. Basically, what is the idea of the 7th Environmental Action Program? Basically, what we are trying to identify is that the future which we have to focus and deliver cannot be done with a division between economic and environmental activity. So we want absolutely to focus on the future green growth and jobs, which would at the same time take consideration also of the natural capital and preservation of natural capital and human health and taking care for human health. These are basically the 3 core objectives. We want to deliver it through the so-called 4 I.S.E, better implementation, better information by providing scientific evidence base, more innovation and investment for environment, and full integration of environment into other policies. Finally, we think that there are 2 specific areas on which we should concentrate and cooperate with. On a local level, it is the cities, because in few years 80% of us will live in the cities. And it is global dimension, because we cannot answer many of those challenges without really looking through the global optics and contributing there. The real essence of the document is focusing on the implementation. We have today really a lot of legislation. To tell you frankly, in 3 years, what I have heard, it's a lot of ambition when we talk about strategies and policies in principle, a bit less of ambition, or less of ambition when we talk about concrete proposals which we put on the table, and lack of ambition when it comes to implementation. And the real influence on the environment is actually implementation, nothing else, not the good ambitions. The 20th century in which we are living, 21st century in which we are living, is based on 20th century experience which we have to take into account. In 20th century, the population growth was 4 times. The growth of our economic output was something between 20 and 30 times. And the use of whatever resources you would take was close to that. In some cases, like water, apparently less. In some cases, like, for example, fish catch, more. But with one general, very clear message that the resources were used much faster and higher than the population was growing. And what we are facing now, it's that, of course, like the article from Nature, which was recently published in June, is saying that in the 21st century, basically, all our problems emerge from 2 simple variables. One is the population and the level of population which we will be reaching, and another is per capita consumption of that population. So, you know that there was some predictions of the Club of Rome, and even the whole economic theory of Malthusian theory, in a way, it's pointing to some of those ideas. I'm not saying that they are entirely correct, but I think for the first time, we should really seriously ask ourselves very simple questions. When we talk about climate change, when we talk about biodiversity disappearing, and when we talk about use of resources, the questions are pretty simple. Is it climate change reality or not? Is it biodiversity disappearing or not? Do we have real problems with the shortage of resources? And the second question is it caused by human beings? If we answer to both of those positively, which I think it is practically undeniable that the answer to both is positive, then I think we know what is a job which we have to do. I think that one of the major problems which we have to really deal with is the question of the approach to our life, be it through democracies, be it through economic models, be it through political cycles, in a short or in a long-term logic and thinking. While maybe short-term logic was still acceptable in the 21st century, in the 21st century, with the challenges which we are facing, it is absolutely impossible to that we survive with the short-term logic. I don't know many politicians who are re-elected because they are thinking long-term. I don't know even many of the businesses who are rewarded because they are because their profits are lower next year, but are more sustainable in a longer term. Even if I have to admit that some also among you are thinking very seriously also in the longer term perspective. And I think this is one of the problems which is inherited in our societies. And I do not know the answer, but I know that it is the serious problem. You asked about sustainability, what actually it is. Sustainability, it's coherence between short-term and long-term. And sustainability, it's not environmental story. If somebody doesn't understand our passing this economic disaster which we are passing, that sustainability is in the essence very much part of our economic, social and environmental story. If in financial sector nothing would happen if the people would not think first short term, the rules would not be correct, and then if you decouple the profits and the logic from the real sector, you get the explosions. And that's exactly what we are facing. So the crisis which we are today facing in economy, it's a typical crisis of unsustainable logic which we have applied in our economies. So transformation, I think it's inevitable. And if we are really, really honest, we all know that. And I think it's really important that we take also that in our decisions. I was few days ago when we discussed in our house, reminded that the times in which we are living are not for too many proposals which would be having too much of interest of environment behind. My answer was, dear friends, we have never delivered anything which would be really with the interest of environment in mind. What we are delivering as our proposals are only the proposals which are human-centered. Some are egoistic in the short term, the others are egoistic in the long term. And it's not the question either the planet will survive, it's not the question if nature will survive. In essence, it's about us. And we should be all aware of that when we are talking about the issues which we are talking. Thank you.